Well, hello there. It's another weekend update. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I'm Bill Knight. You know, before we ever start recording, we talk and we talk about life, we talk about the show, and then we realize we're doing a darn show here. Well, what are we doing this thing off mic? And we could have been on mic.
It's true.
And I will tell you, ladies and gentlemen, even though we have a stack of paper here of things to talk about, there are topics that we talk about before we ever turn on the mic. And well, that's good stuff. We've been talking an hour. Let's roll.
Well, a little backstory. We decided yesterday that we're going to hook up tomorrow, and we're going to do it early and get an early start on the weekend update. So we connected over an hour ago, and we figured we'd start, right away. But we started to talk without recording anything. And we continued to talk, and we talked about everything. And then
we talked about a fly in the ointment.
Exactly. I was telling I don't know whether you've ever had this happen in your house, but I had one of those summer flies that found its way into my domicile, and I started chasing it last night, and it was so fast and so evasive. Of course, I'm not that quick anymore, but it would taunt me. Do you know? The fly literally taunted me, and I just couldn't get it. And we started talking an hour ago, and literally as we're talking, the fly landed like 6 inches from my hand.
He stops everything. Wait a minute, wait.
He was getting cocky, though. He was getting cocky. He really was.
He was brave. He was showing off. He ain't going to get me.
Well, I fixed his wagon. He's in the. I flushed him. He's doing the deep six swim there. He's gone. But I thought it was very nice of him, actually, to make himself available before the show so he wouldn't interrupt what we were doing. But
yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, well, we all have our stories.
Yes, we do indeed. You heard yesterday that Joe Biden had said he was going to excuse all of the student loans. I mean, he was out of the kindness and generosity of his heart, he was going to, just dismiss them. I'm talking millions and millions and millions of dollars in student loans. Well,
does that help me or you?
It doesn't. Well, the Supreme Court had a judgment yesterday come down. They said, no, you can't do that. He hasn't got the right to dismiss. He can delay payment. He can tell you that I'm going to hold off for 6 months. You can hold off on your loan, but he can't dismiss them summarily by himself. And of course, the left is going bananas, because
they're also saying, Joe, you promised, and because he did promise.
Yep. He promised, but like everything else Joe promises, verify his promises, folks, because he very rarely comes through. I mean, he told us we were going to have a terrific economy. Take a look around you. How good is it, right? We're going to have secure borders, right? That's a joke. We have Alexander Mayorkas, his Homeland Security guy, is telling the world that the borders are secure. Everything is great. Nothing to see here. Just keep moving along. I mean, listen.
Secure. Our border is secure.
Our border is, and then he said,
the border is not open. It has not been open, and it will not be open subsequent to May 11th.
Oh, you gotta love this guy, Mayorkas, huh? The border is not open.
So how are they getting across then? They're digging and going under
They're being teleported. It's like Star Trek,
one of those things. Beam them over, Scotty. Aye, Captain.
Unbelievable. He's a laugh, but he's doing all this with the total encouragement and approval of Joe Biden. This doesn't happen. He doesn't do it on his own. Right. So the student loan thing, if you were expecting that your student loans that you committed to before you went to college, you actually signed documents saying that you would pay off the student loans, and then you got through college, and then all of a sudden Joe says, forget it. No, don't forget it. You're going to have to go back and pay them off, just like millions of your predecessors have done throughout the decades. I mean, I can't tell you how many student loan applications I put in for my kids, for us to help pay for their tuition. I mean, it is a responsibility. And Joe did it for one purpose only, and that was to make himself look strong, to make himself look generous, to make it so that you would vote for him. And the Supreme Court said, Joe, you haven't got the authority yesterday. So that was canceled, dismissed. What was the other Supreme Court ruling that came down this week? There was another one that was the day before yesterday. And
Affirmative action.
Affirmative action, yeah. The left is going bananas. You cannot believe the people who are just going nuts on the left. It's not our Supreme Court. You know, they're saying things like Trump's justices are completely destroying the fabric of our country. No, they're repairing the damage you guys did, you know.
Well, yeah, and they're going, well, it's another 20 years that we got to put up with this crap. Well, good. You know what? You're going to be dead and gone probably then if that's the way you think about it. Affirmative action. What does it do? Oh, it doesn't go by grades or color or anything yet. Well, actually, it does. It takes away, your achievements because you don't have to have any. It's solely based on giving a privilege to one group, and that's it. They are buying you because they're enslaving you and calling you stupid. Is that what you are? I don't think so.
I'm looking at some stories. The woke, I think, are going through a difficult time right now. If you look at them on a whole, right, they had these two rulings come down from the Supreme Court, blindsided them. Of course, they had the Roe decision a few months back. So they're feeling like the Supreme Court is turning on them because they thought it was their court, and I mean, look what they did back in 1970. I'll never forget, by the way, that ruling coming down in 1973. I was a young man, and I even thought it was an unbelievable ruling even back then. I couldn't make sense of it, and I didn't pay attention to politics.
And you
back
were
then.
a Democrat then.
I was a Democrat back then. I absolutely was. I was a kid. I was in my 20s, and I think in 1973 I was 25, I mean, I didn't know anything about politics. I mean, I was one of these kids who I was just trying to feed my family. We just bought a house, and I was just trying to make sense of life. And I believed what the media told me.
Well, let me ask you a question. At that age, life, so life, you became a part of life, and you wanted to feed your family.
Right.
So you had responsibilities. And that's when your conservative values kick in, because then all of a sudden you understand what life really is.
Sure.
These little idealistic things, put a flower in the barrel of the gun, equality for everyone. Well, how do you define equality?
And the thing about that is that the thing about students who did what you were just saying, they stuck the flowers in the barrel.
Oh, yeah.
The thing about students of that age, they look like adults. They're in college. They have the bodies of adults. You look at them, but they really don't have the life experience of an adult at that age. I'm sorry.
Hey, that's true. As a matter of fact, it's a liberal school that went back and they studied about maturity. Do you know when it kicks in? 25. So shut up and come back when you're 25, and then let's sit down and have a reasonable talk. Until then, your brain hasn't developed yet to even rationalize and know. And
what was it that Mark Twain said? It's amazing how stupid my father was when I was 18 and how much smarter he had become by the time I was 21.
Yeah.
The father didn't change. He did,
Yeah. Sometimes, you grow. Look, and guys are slower than women when it comes to maturing. And that is just a simple fact. I mean, nature has got some unevenities into it too,
I know.
I went through it.
I know. We all did. Trust me. Anyway, few interesting little tidbits that we don't want to overlook before the weekend ends. But George Soros, he's 92 years old. You probably heard that he's handing off responsibilities to his son. I think his son's name is Alex, and. But this came out yesterday. Apparently, the Soros company is going to cut their staff by 40%.
Why would that be?
I don't know. I mean, you would think if they were as successful as they purport them, as they present themselves as, they're trying to change the world, you would think their staff would be growing, but it says they're cutting them by 40%. So,
well, who knows? Maybe he doesn't need the staff anymore, because sometimes having so much money is like having, cockroaches in your house. You can't stop it from breeding and growing. So maybe his money's.
I was reading something. I got to see where I can find it. Oh, if you got a second.
And I don't have enough money to breed and grow, so don't. And I don't have cockroaches in my house either, so don't even go there.
Laura Logan posted something which I thought was interesting, and I got to find it here. It's on Twitter.
Take your time. It's the weekend, a long weekend. I got a lot of time, and I got nothing to do.
You're very flexible. You really are.
I am. Well, they called me Stretch when I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah, really.
She was talking about how she's just fed up with Bill Gates. Gates is always trying to tell us how to live our life, but what you don't realize is how this guy lives his life, and I can't seem to find the one tweet that she posted yesterday, but it was about Gates and his lifestyle. I'll just paraphrase it. She talked about one of his houses was just the epitome of overindulgence. I mean, he had speakers in his swimming pool, audio speakers in his swimming pool, so that if you dive underwater, you can hear the music.
But sound doesn't travel the same way underwater.
I'm just telling you what I read. I think the guy's house, I'm talking in the multi-millions of dollars. He doesn't have a yacht per se, but whenever he wants to go out on one, he'll just go rent one for whatever period of time. And when he rents it, it's like the biggest, the fastest, the flashiest. He does say that he has a penchant for private planes. He just loves private planes, so he has a number of those. Now, mind you, this is the guy who is telling us to limit our carbon footprint, make it a smaller carbon footprint. But he has airplanes and flies all over the world at his convenience because, well, he's Bill Gates. Then he has, now I told you about this one house, and the house apparently has like 24 bathrooms. It only has like 7 or 8 bedrooms. I can't figure that one out. It's like you would think that you would have like maybe a bathroom per bedroom, but why have 3 or 4 bathrooms for every one bedroom? But I guess when you have that kind of money, you just don't want to have to run to the bathroom.
Well, how many people are in each bedroom? I mean, is this like a Harry Met Sally? Or what was that? Those three couples that were in a big movie in the 70s?
I do know.
Yeah, swinger movie. Maybe it's the Swingdom.
Well,
I don't know.
Apparently, his wife, who divorced him a few years ago, and took him for I think half of his worth, which for him is nothing. When you're worth billions and billions of dollars, you lose a few billion, you still are worth billions. It's like, so what? And he'll generate more. But she was supposedly blindsided by his running off to Epstein Island, as many times as he did. I'm sure he was just going there to get a tan. But this guy is amazing. But he has multiple homes. That's just one home I told you. He has maybe 2 or 3 mansions in California. He has a ranch in Minnesota, I believe it is. He has a beautiful $13 or $14 million house in Florida. And the thing about, I think it was the Florida estate. He didn't want to be bothered by the neighbors, in this beautiful estate that he bought in Florida. So, this made sense. He bought all of the neighboring mansions around him so that he could be the only one on the street. He bought all of them. So if the house he's living in is $14 million, the house next to him is $10 million, the house next on the other side is $12 million. He just bought them all up. So he doesn't have any neighbors. I guess I don't know whether he kept the properties as they were. He probably is keeping them in good shape so that he can sell them if he decides to sell them in the future. But the guy is the same guy who turns around at the World Economic Forum and is telling the world how we've got to limit the size of our population. 500 million would be perfect for Bill Gates. 500 million, folks. We're a country right now of 330 million. So he's comfortable with a massive reduction totally around the world. I'm talking in the tens of billions, right? And Bill, you got to wonder with these damn forest fires. I heard another thing yesterday. I'm sure you heard it too.
Yeah.
Well, look, here's what I heard. The fire, if you walk outside, it doesn't smell like smoke. It smells like chemical.
Well, we talked about that the other day.
Let me tell you what they told you is in the air. They did a test in Michigan from these forest fires in Canada, and the smoke is filled with benzene and formaldehyde. Now, apparently what happens is the smoke burns in Canada, goes into the atmosphere, mixes with moisture. There's a chemical reaction in the air and turns into formaldehyde and benzene by itself. I didn't know it could do that, but apparently it does. It then floats down here. Benzene is a carcinogenic.
Yeah.
Causes cancer, folks.
Yeah, and if you don't know about it, go to Charleston, West Virginia, where they made the crap, and the Chemical Valley. I mean, there are pieces of ground there that are contaminated for the next 50,000 years.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Did they get punished, the companies that did that?
Well,
I mean, did they get put out of business? I think it was DuPont, wasn't it?
Yeah, the DuPonts and, the Union Carbides.
Yeah, that's what, yeah.
But all of them, well, they were all down there. Now, here's what happens is they're no longer in existence, but they had to maintain a shell. So if you drive along, I forget the interstate down there, but you drive along, you kind of go over the bridge in Charleston, it swings around to the right, and you look down and you see the plants, and you see the stacks where the gas is still burning. They're not producing anything anymore, but they have a crew there that has to maintain the facility, because once they shut it down, they have to sit there and do an entire cleanup of that ground.
So it's cheaper for them to maintain the plants as they are.
Bill Gates, George Soros, and Elon Musk don't have enough money in their bank accounts or future accounts to clean that mess up.
Wow.
You didn't know that?
No, I didn't. I
used to live down there. That's why I programmed a rock station down there, and the Chemical Valley. That's why I knew about.
So they poisoned the area, and they're not so far. They really haven't cleaned it up.
Well, they did. Look, you've heard the mystery of the Mothman.
Yeah.
All right. There is I don't know what the animal is called, but it's like an indigenous bird, and it's big. It's like 6 foot. Now, you always heard about the Mothman. It flies. Well, it's that bird, but it's got these glowing red eyes. There was a chemical that was produced. I don't know if it was World War II or for the Vietnam War, but the military produced it. The chemicals were made there, and the depot is empty. Those birds have taken it over, and they eat whatever, and it gets into their system, and their eyes glow. So when people say, yeah, I saw this thing just sitting there staring at me, apparently it's not a...
So you're ruining a myth, though. You realize that tourists go down to look for the Mothman. You realize they drive for hundreds of miles to go to that bridge.
All right. If you see it in the dark,
yes.
Apparently it comes out at night, a big 6 foot flying thing, and
yes.
It comes down. It's got glowing red eyes.
Yes.
Now, Bill said he was docile, but I'm going to get the hell out of here.
I am.
I've never run into one, but
Yeah, I am too.
there was a media guy that actually did the story, did the investigation of it, and has been featured in a lot of specials. And that's where I get that information. So if you want to debunk it, you can. I don't give a flying crap. But in any story, I'm going to look for what logic would dictate. And, there's enough evidence to prove that.
Yeah. Well, boy,
So the myth is busted.
the myth is busted, but the damage from those plants, wow, that's amazing.
Well, yeah, the ground is polluted.
Well,
but
then you
know what?
wonder why you look at East Palestine, Ohio, right? They still haven't really cleaned it up.
Well, I just said that. I was going to say that. And there's plants up that way. We've got places all over this country that we have polluted the ground. As a matter of fact, we do, Russia does, and China does. The big three are the worst three in the world.
Yeah.
And which means that our government, the money that controls our governments, don't give a crap about the citizens. Now, the benzene, I've driven by the plant before when I used to go to work there, and you see the gates locked, but you do see certain people that go in, all they're doing is maintaining the plant.
Wow. Wow. So
And,
getting back to those fires that we were talking about, though, it hasn't let up yet. It has not let up. Where I live outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, it's still another air quality action alert day or whatever it is. I'm not sure the level we're at, but we're still breathing in the smoke. We still, and now they're calling it in the weather, they call it fog. It's not fog, it's smoke.
No. I took a drive yesterday, and it hadn't been here yet. And I was going, there's a haze in the sky. The sun is starting to set, and you could see that haze. And I didn't have the air on in the car. I had the window down. I said, boy, the air, even though, I could breathe fine, it's a little stale. And it had that chemical smell, that pungent smell.
Well, welcome to what we've been breathing for days around here.
But people are getting bloody noses. They're vomiting. Blood's coming out. And that is the chemical that is getting in you. And I don't know. There might be more in the air than what you think.
And I mentioned this yesterday. There are helicopters flying up there, and they'll tell you that they're making cut lines. So they start fires in areas and they burn them out, and literally it leaves a gap between the trees. So hopefully the fire will get to the edge of one tree line and not be able to jump that gap and continue. But if you see the helicopter, it has this long, like a bucket hanging from a cable that's suspended maybe 50 feet below the helicopter. And
Probably getting air samples.
No, what it's doing is it has a flamethrower. It looks like a flamethrower. It's like pouring flame down on the trees, and it's flying along, lighting the trees on fire. I saw this myself, and I thought to myself, wait a second, this just does not look right. It looks like they showed an aerial, an aerial satellite image of a suburban, was it Ontario? Like 1 minute, there's no fires, and a few minutes later, the whole area around Toronto or someplace is on fire. It's like you can see it with the smoke. And I'm thinking, this is not normal. And by the way, if it's having such a deleterious effect on the northeast region of the United States of America, you would think that our president would address it and say, folks, we got a problem with our friends to the north with fires. And I've talked to Prime Minister Trudeau, and we're going to be sending some firefighting units and some National Guardsmen to Canada to combat this problem and get it out as fast as possible. But I hear nothing. Nothing.
Well, I don't know. I'm speculating here. G7's coming up, isn't it, in Japan?
I wouldn't be surprised. I haven't. I would imagine.
I wonder what they're going to be talking about there.
I have no idea.
Look, something's up is all I'm saying. I don't want to sit there and speculate because.
Well, I mean, one thing's for sure: we have a fire. We have fires that are blazing in Canada, in the forests of Canada. I think they said over 400 nationally. That's what they said, over 400 fires. I mean, Canada is on fire, and it's not a worldwide issue. I would think that it would benefit countries from around the world to send in firefighters and equipment to help put those fires out. But, nothing. Anyway, another thing I thought it was interesting, this is another indication that the people on the left are starting to, I think, panic. ESPN, which is, that went woke several years ago. It used to be just a sports network. There was a time when you could just rely on certain things to give you just the sports and just the news. Well, you don't get that anymore because they try to hit you from every angle everywhere, right? So ESPN went from being a great sports network to being a woke sports network, but apparently they've announced that they're going to start laying off. They're going to lay off 20 of their, key announcers and celebrities. It's a dramatic cut for them. NBA commentator Jeff Van Gundy is gone. Former NBA star and analyst Jalen Rose gone. Host Max Kellerman is gone. Former NFL star and analyst Keyshawn Johnson is gone. Former NFL star and analyst Steve Young, a great athlete, he's gone. Former NFL player and analyst Matt Hasselbeck, gone. NFL reporter Susie Colbert is gone. And NFL draft analyst Todd McShay is gone. That's just a partial list of the people at ESPN who you will not see anymore. They're cutting back. And
amazing.
And a bunch of those people, I would think guys like Steve Young had hefty paychecks. I mean, Steve Young was literally a superstar quarterback for San Francisco, and he was retired. And they probably figured, well, we got to cut somewhere. Let's take the big celebrities and lob them off. So they're going.
Hey, maybe they're making room for you and I, because it's going to take a lot of money to get us on there. Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. They'll be calling this afternoon, so stay by the phone.
Yeah, I'll hold my breath for that call too.
I'm sure you will. One of Trump's lawyers is Alina Habba, and she smart young lady. And she was talking. She was being interviewed on Real America's Voice. She was talking about apparently, and I didn't realize this. Apparently, there's a difference between a special counsel and an independent special counsel. And she said,
what is it?
she said that this guy Smith is a special counsel. Apparently, when you are a special counsel, you report to Merrick Garland, who in turn reports to Joe Biden. They're not independent. Apparently, if you're an independent special counsel, you report to nobody. Let's listen to her explain it.
Everything. So I think the problem we have is in the Justice Department is we'll say that there's, let's use Jack Smith, special counsel. He's special counsel. He's not independent special counsel. So special counsel reports to Merrick Garland. It's one twisted thing. You would think that it's, they give the impression that we've hired this special counsel. He's completely solely for this case. He's independent. That's not accurate. It is not accurate. He reports to Merrick Garland. And who does Merrick Garland report to? Joe Biden. So we have to look at a way to make sure there is true independence. There is true confinement when people are doing investigations. If you look at Durham's testimony and everything that I brought a lawsuit against that was thrown out as fake, and now we all know it's true. You have to prevent these things from happening. People have their right in court.
Yeah, you were going after the origins of Russiagate,
Hillary Clinton's campaign,
and the lies,
and Dolan,
lying
and all
to the FISA court.
Exactly, and that judge sanctioned me and the president, didn't even meet me, and I got sanctioned $1 million for something that ended up being 100% true. Everything in my complaint was vetted. We spent months and months and months and months on that complaint, and I was sanctioned. I didn't even get to go to court and meet the judge. I just filed a complaint. Imagine $1 million. That's a lot of money to me.
Absolutely.
And that is what we're dealing with. The order had nothing to do with with Russiagate, which Durham now said was 100% true. The order was about me being a political figure, was about President Trump, and was about.
It's tough being, I think, an attorney for President Trump these days. I was reading where there's a lot of pressure on law firms that are considering representing the former president not to represent him because they may suffer penalties in the long run, maybe lose clients, things like that?
Yeah, they put political pressure on them, financial pressure, because that's the one thing you can do. You hit them in the pocketbook, they got to think twice. You're like, hey, Trump, I'd love to support you, but I can't support and pay pay the rent, pay the utilities, and let alone maintain my family if I support you, because it is that big, the woke state.
Another thing that you haven't heard a thing about in the news because it doesn't carry the narrative that they want out there. There was an armed gunman in Las Vegas who went into a building. He had body armor on, and he went in and he brandished it looked like an AR-15, and he was met by a security guard, I believe, who had a gun, and the security guard started to shoot at this guy, and this guy, he ran back to the doors to get out, but he still had his rifle. He shot the doors out, the glass doors out. He ran out into the entryway, shot another set of windows out, and ran outside, and the guy from inside shot the guy who had the body armor on. But I had to understand something. With body armor, yes, it keeps you probably from being killed, but it hurts like a son of a gun, they say. They say it's terrible. And he got whacked a couple of times in the body armor. He dropped his gun. I guess they then went out and arrested the guy, or they got him so that he was not going to go anywhere. And the guy literally saved a bunch of people from being killed. He was going to go in and commit murder with his AR-15. And, he ran outside into a public area and he still had the gun. Who's to say he wasn't going to shoot somebody outside the hotel or the building that he was in? So, but you hear nothing about this thing. This happened This happened like on the 26th. It says a Brave Arm employee discharged his firearm to stop a mass shooting in Las Vegas on Friday, saving countless lives. But local government officials are covering up this vigilante's heroic action for unspecific reasons. For some reason, the local officials don't want you to know what happened. They're keeping the details quiet. It's an ongoing investigation. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it is.
I don't know why they would do stuff like that, but again, you don't hear it on the news.
No, you don't. Biden's falling apart, though. I mean, of course, he's been dazed and confused. Have you heard how many gaffes that he's having lately? Oh,
it's one after the other. As a matter of fact, I got one here if you want to hear it.
Oh, sure. Bring it up.
This is Joe yesterday. He made a statement, and he was walking out, and you'll hear the reporter in the beginning ask him a question about Afghanistan, and then he comes back to the microphone, and he does that whispering thing that he does.
Oh, that's stupid.
That creepy thing. Listen.
Mr. President, do you admit failure in Afghanistan? Mistakes. There was a report on Afghanistan withdrawal saying there was failure, mistakes. Do you admit there was mistakes during the withdrawal and before?
No, all the evidence is coming back there. Remember what I said about Afghanistan? I said Al-Qaeda would not be there. I said it wouldn't be there. I said we'd get help from the Taliban. What's happening now? What's going on? Read your press. I was right. Thanks.
The guy's amazing. The guy, he's completely in another world. He said we want to get help from the Taliban, and Al-Qaeda wouldn't be an issue. This guy is delusional.
I'm trying to figure that one out.
Well, he said Taliban wouldn't take over the country. Who's running Afghanistan? The Taliban.
Yeah.
The guy is, and he walks up to the microphone like he's straightening this reporter out, like they wouldn't have the facts. He was going to set him straight. The guy is just in another world, and the sad part about it is he's running the country. He is the president of the United States right now. He is the guy who's in charge of just about everything. And he acts more and more like a dictator than a president.
Yeah.
He rules
he is
by
a dictator. He's always been that way, though. He's been that kind of. He's been a liar all his life, and he's got kind of that domineering thing. They talk about Stuttering Joe. He's never had a problem with stuttering all his years. Now, if you look at him at the beginning, even in the debates, he made gaffes, but everybody makes gaffes, and the media likes to pointed out, especially if it's a Republican gaffe, and they try to hide his, but they have gotten so prevalent, he's making them several times a day. And that is a not just a mental decline, that's an age decline that, I'm sorry, it's not his fault that he's declining. It does happen. But there's also the stress of a job. Sometimes you get physically and mentally to a point to where you're not capable. And
they tried, by the way, this week to make that CPAP thing to be an issue. And there are thousands, millions of people who use CPAP machines. It's an aid. It's an assist. And I don't think, by the way, that's what he was wearing, because if you look where the straps were that had the indentation on his cheek, I've never seen a mask that lines up like that one supposedly did. And he must have had whatever he had it on very tight for it to leave an indentation on his cheek. And
was he getting oxygen, pure oxygen?
That wouldn't surprise me. They give him a belt of oxygen to make him more alert, more into it. There's something going on with him that we just don't see. We're not privy to. A lot of things happening in the background. You know, we talked about the Supreme Court rulings this week. Nancy Pelosi, before the latest rulings came down, she figured that there should be term limits on the Supreme Court. Listen.
Do you think that there should be changes, reforms to the Supreme Court, term limits, an expansion?
Yeah, I don't know about the expansion. I mean, it's been over 150 years since we've had an expansion of the court. It was in the time of Lincoln that it went up to 9. So the subject of whether that should happen is a discussion. And it's not a rallying cry, but it's a discussion. The president formed a commission. They did not recommend expansion of the court. That shouldn't be the end of it. But there certainly should be term limits. There certainly be term limits. And if nothing else, there should be some ethical rules that would be followed. I had one justice tell me he thought the other justices were people of integrity, like a Clarence Thomas. I'm like, get out of here.
You know, Mark Levin has a new book out called The Democrats Hate America, and I truly think they do hate America. I mean, they can't be happy with this beautiful country we live in. They want it to be something different. They want to have a system that's been in place for 250 years, adjusted so it fits their needs. You know, Nancy Pelosi is vile. She's truly, for her, she was the Speaker of the House for how long? How many terms? For years. And all she did is cause turmoil and cause a lot of problems.
And how long is a congressperson's term
2 years.
for Congress? 2 years.
Yeah.
So how in the hell are some of these people there 10, 20, 30 years? Come on. Yeah, but, you know, obviously they've won the vote.
Yeah.
You know, we've got to change what's there, because that's where you get you get the dictators.
I think she went into office, Bill. I think she went into office in 1991. 1991. So how many 2-year terms is that? I mean, we're talking 2001,
32 years.
32 years.
Yeah.
So she had so many terms in office. You got to wonder, I mean, are the people in San Francisco so happy with her performance that they would just keep automatically putting her back into office? See, that's the problem with our society. We don't pay enough attention to what we really need to pay attention to. You know, we should be examining every 2 years. Look at your representative's performance over the previous 2 years. If he ain't doing it, move along. Find somebody who's going to do what you think has to be done. But we don't do that. We become stupid in the U.S. We just sort of, okay, well, Nancy's been in office for how many years? She must be doing things right. No, not necessarily. Anything else you want to talk about this morning before we wrap this sucker up?
Well, apparently there was a story out that there's a smoking gun on Biden, where as vice president, he actually took defense information, classified information, briefings on U.S. troop to Hunter Biden, shared them with foreign powers, And Miranda Devine from the New York Post provided one email that appeared to include classified material from the U.S. government.
I heard that. Yeah, I did hear that. This is getting tougher and tougher for old Joe, I think. At some point, he's going to have to explain himself, and I don't think he's going to have the answers you would expect. I think he's really good at denying everything. He's lied about everything ever since he's been in office. Did you plagiarize that speech? No, I didn't plagiarize that speech, but they have the speech side by side, and it was plagiarized.
Yeah, I mean there are points to where you can't bury certain things. So but they are trying to cover up everything, and this is a holiday weekend, so it's perfect time to launch a bunch of bombs, meaning news bombs.
Yeah.
Where they're going to attack the right. So Trump and his team are probably ready for it. Oh, what are they going to accuse us of now?
Yeah.
But,
I think he's speaking. I think he's speaking today somewhere at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. President Trump is. I also worry, Bill, over this weekend about what we've talked about in the past. They still can't find that 60,000 pounds of ammonium nitrate, which
I keep thinking about that. Where's it going to crop up? When and how is it going to crop up?
I don't know. Nobody seems to be too upset about it, too concerned, but it's out there.
Well, it's not going to show up on a farm. It was stolen, so it's not going to help out any crops. But somebody's going to do something with it. They got it. You know what it can do. It's part of a bomb-making material. It can be used in agriculture, but it can also make a bomb. And when you got, 60 tons?
60,000 pounds. 60,000 pounds.
30 tons.
30 tons, yeah. 30 tons of explosives. And by the way, I think they said it's explosive-grade ammonium nitrate as opposed to, I guess, agricultural grade.
Right. It's the top of the crop, which means that when it was produced for, that kind of grade, there had to be governmental supervision over it.
And what surprises me about that story is the complete blindness of the media. I mean, even the sites that we go to talk, it was there,
Right.
It was there, and it faded out, and now they've gone on to other things. It's like nothing to see here. Just keep moving along.
Yeah, where the hell did it go? It's amazing. Abraham Lincoln in the news.
Really? How's he
the
doing?
Aircraft apparently it caught on fire. The aircraft carrier. Yeah, no, the aircraft carrier had an electrical fire. They put it out quickly. They did evacuate some non-essential crew off the ship when a fire broke out, which is standard depending where the ship is. And it's in San Diego and docked now for repairs. But it's a Nimitz class aircraft carrier. So it's a good aircraft carrier. Not if I don't know my aircraft carriers, but it's probably not like the new ones out.
It's a big one.
It'd be big planes, but
Yes.
That's kind of interesting. And I'm happy to say, put your hands together, Trump won the election.
He did.
Apparently,
Which one?
yeah. Well, he won the election in Oregon after being written in by voters. It was a write-in vote for people. They didn't go with the candidates that were on the ballot. There was a tie for a position on the Hubbard Rural Fire Protection District Board after votes on May 16th in which Trump and 4 people received 2 write-in votes each.
So he's now what? What's the position?
Well, I guess he now is a member of the Hubbard Rural Fire Protection District Board.
Oh, I wonder if he's going to attend any meetings.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's interesting. Apparently, the tie was broken. What'd they do? They rolled the dice. They had a dice roll off. So they tossed the dice and Trump won.
I see where Carmela apparently celebrated big time the Pride Month last week. She had a party, a big Pride party at the vice president's mansion. Of course, that was on your dime. It didn't come out of her pocket. And
Of course not.
She had her husband proudly hold up, I guess it was a shirt that she had made, a Pride shirt. And she also, she was so articulate again. She was speaking last week, and the subject of frogs came up. Frogs. Frogs, yes, listen.
I think of those two frogs. You know, the two frogs in the two pots. So for your listeners, here it goes. So there are two pots of water and two frogs. And in one pot, you put the frog in the water and you slowly turn up the heat. And that frog's just hanging out as the heat just slowly gets hotter to the point that water starts to boil and that frog perishes. In the other pot of water, you first turn up the heat real high. The water's boiling, you drop that frog in, he'll jump right out. The lesson there, as far as I'm concerned, don't be that first frog.
Boy, that's smart. Yeah,
but I think it's kind of prophetic. It's actually, if you think about it, it could be what's happening with the current administration right now. I think they're kind of like the one where you turn the heat up slowly. I think that's what's kind of happening to the Biden administration. They thought that they had the U.S. by the cojones, but I think that they're starting to be uncovered for the people that they are, you know?
Yeah. Well, that analogy has been around for a long time, and maybe that analogy is really what they've been doing all along, slowly turning up the heat on the American populace, and they figured they would just cook us, and all of a sudden we're in a woke society, and we're this, and we're that, and we're this, and we're that. It is all of a sudden coming to fruition right before our very eyes.
I mean,
I don't know.
I think I told you before the show started, I was watching the Smithsonian Channel last night, and I think a large part of it is owned by Fox, and they had these promos for being transgender. And they were like commercials, and they were addressing the transgender community, and they had all these drag queens on camera talking about how wonderful it is, and when you're ready to transcend into the transgender movement, we'll be here waiting for you. And I got to tell you, folks, these people looked like images of a bad dream. You know, I mean, they put their makeup on like they just grabbed the lipstick and bashed it into their face. I mean, it wasn't pretty, but it was a serious, legitimate promo. And I thought, my God, what the heck is going on? And we have to sit there, by the way, as a viewer and have to suffer through that. And many times, if you have a small person watching a show, you probably have to explain it, to your kids. Don't think that's just a bunch of silly people. Don't worry about it. Because kids, they have questions. It's got to be tough to be a little kid nowadays. With all this nonsense. I think so. Yeah. All this
it's so confusing. I mean, but.
Hey, it's confusing for me, and I ain't a little kid. If you want to get a hold of us, we're at 833-538-7868. 833-538-7868.
And then there's mail at itsanotherday.com. Mail at itsanotherday.com. I would say you could do snail mail, but this is a homeless podcast. No, I'm kidding.
I think we should leave with a smile. John Kennedy. John Kennedy is he's a senator from Louisiana, and he's a funny guy. And listen to what he said about Biden. Listen.
American people may be poorer under President Biden, but they're not stupid. President Biden's approval rating ranks right up there with jock itch among American voters. President Biden has mismanaged Congress. He's mismanaged COVID. He's mismanaged the border. He's mismanaged crime. He's mismanaged the spy balloon. He's mismanaged the economy. He's mismanaged fentanyl, and he's forfeited our energy independence. I'll tell you what also scares me. President Biden has another year and a half to discover new and innovative ways to suck. And it is a dangerous world out there.
Yeah, but boy, can Joe sing. Hey, Bill, have yourself a great weekend. Happy 4th of July, my friend. We'll see you on...
Hey, you too. I'm going to try to keep all my fingers this time. And, hey, hasta la vista.